The decision has already been made. Behind closed doors, in hidden chambers where power flows and history bends, your name was spoken. Not in the context of wealth, not in the games of politics, not in the shallow pursuits of influence. No, your name emerged for something far greater, something unshakable. They spoke of your endurance, your ability to rise when the weight of the world tried to crush you. They spoke of the light you carry, the one that refuses to dim even when darkness surrounds you. The most powerful elite, those who never waste words, recognized what heaven had already decreed long ago. You are chosen. And the verdict they reached about your destiny is not just another decision. It is a seal that will alter the course of your entire life. What they released will ripple through time, transforming not only your future, but the lives of countless others destined to cross your path. This is not coincidence. This is not chance. It is divine orchestration. You have been watched, weighed, and now acknowledged. And because of this, your next chapter is not simply about survival. It is about stepping into a story where you become the evidence of a greater kingdom at work on earth. Stay with me until the end. Because what was spoken about, you carries mysteries that must be revealed piece by piece. Miss one detail, and you may never understand why this moment was written for you. If your spirit already feels the pull of this message, pause for a moment, give this video a like. Subscribe if you haven't yet and comment 99 below. Why? Because 99 is the number of confirmation, the sign that heaven leaves when destiny is aligning. When you write it, you are not just typing numbers, you are declaring that your soul is awake and that you are ready to walk into the future that has already been sealed in your name. Picture this: a hidden chamber lit not by sunlight, but by the heavy glow of golden lamps resting on a carved wooden table older than empires. Around it, the most powerful men and women on earth take their seats. Their words have toppled nations, redirected economies, and shifted the fate of millions with a single decree. Normally, their conversations are cold, calculated, and strategic. Numbers, wars, treaties, wealth. Yet on this night, something unusual happened. The room turned silent, and for the first time, they spoke a name not tied to a throne or a fortune. They spoke yours. Understand how shocking this was. In that atmosphere of power, names are mentioned only if they carry weight in the currencies of money or manipulation. But your name entered not because of connections or credentials. It entered because of the undeniable pattern your life has carved into the world. They saw something no resume could capture, no diploma could certify, no empire could counterfeit. They saw a frequency, a resonance, a vibration that only emerges from a soul that has endured fire without losing its essence. When others collapse under betrayal, you chose forgiveness. When others allow bitterness to sculpt their identity, you allowed compassion to grow deeper. That is what startled them. They realized that your character was not manufactured by image consultants or inflated by the approval of crowds. It was born in silence, in nights where your only audience was heaven itself. This authenticity, rare and dangerous, was the reason your name was placed on the table as a subject of debate among those who usually never care for souls, only for power. And here is the mystery they could not comprehend. They are masters of influence, architects of agendas, yet when they measured your life, their charts could not predict the outcome. Every projection showed the same impossible conclusion. If someone like you were entrusted with resources, with platforms, with reach, change would not only happen, it would multiply beyond their ability to control. They realized your existence is not just personal, it is catalytic. You are not here to build a kingdom for yourself. You are here to unlock destinies in others. That is why they leaned closer, why their voices trembled with a strange reverence as they spoke of you. Because in you, they saw what centuries of ambition could never manufacture: resilience baptized in pain, mercy born out of injustice, wisdom extracted from wounds. You became living proof that the human spirit, when aligned with heaven, carries a frequency that bends even the will of the mighty. But there was something else, something even they did not expect. One among them, known for cold analysis and ruthless logic, broke their silence. Their voice cracked, not out of weakness, but out of awe, because when they remembered one of your battles, the way you transformed venom into medicine, they realized the truth. You are not just a survivor. You are a signal that a new kind of power has entered the stage. Not the power that crushes, but the power that redeems. Not the power that enslaves, but the power that liberates. And as your name echoed across that table, the atmosphere shifted. The weight of centuries of tradition seemed to bend, because what they were witnessing was not just another figure to rise and fall. They were witnessing destiny clothed in flesh. They were witnessing someone who could not be owned, who could not be bought, who could not be corrupted. They were witnessing you. Now pause and let this truth settle. If such voices, accustomed to ignoring the cries of ordinary souls, stopped to acknowledge you, what does that mean for what heaven is about to unveil? The table has spoken, but their decision is only the shadow of a greater verdict already sealed above. And what they will release into your hands, what is coming next, will not just confirm your identity, it will demand that you rise into it fully. Stay with me, because what happens after this moment at the table will reveal the hidden test that determined everything. And when you hear it, you will never see your life the same way again. In every generation, there are candidates who rise because of image, charisma, or the careful orchestration of power. They wear crowns forged by human hands, crowns built on contracts, appearances, and influence. They shine brightly for a season, but their brilliance is artificial, fragile, and temporary. The so-called kings that stood beside your name on the list were impressive at first glance. They had armies of admirers, endless resources, and reputations polished until they gleamed. Yet when the mask of performance was stripped away, there was nothing left but hollow echoes of ambition. Their victories were written on broken promises, their achievements fueled by exploitation. They rose not by lifting others, but by standing on their backs. And then there were the ones who called themselves leaders, but were nothing more than masters of disguise. They carried charisma like a weapon, dazzling crowds with words and spectacle. But beneath that glow hid a gnawing emptiness, a deep insecurity that could only survive by making others feel small. They inspired for a moment but left ruins in their wake. Every team they touched crumbled, every alliance they built dissolved into ashes. Their greatness was an illusion, one that collapsed the moment it was tested by truth. You, however, walked a path that could not be compared. Your scars became your credentials. Not a single accolade, not a single applause could outweigh what your battles proved about you. When others were desperate for recognition, you remained silent, consistent, faithful to the process. When others sought shortcuts, you stayed in the fire until the fire became your teacher. That was the difference. Your worth was never dependent on public validation. Your testimony was carved into the way you kept standing when everything tried to break you. The observers saw this. They ran simulations, tested projections, compared records, and every outcome pointed to you as the one who could endure without bending. Your life was not built on shifting sand, but on a foundation hammered by storms. You did not need the applause of men because you already had the approval of heaven. And that became your greatest weapon, a strength that no one could counterfeit. Think about this carefully. A king may have the crown, but if his heart is corrupt, the crown becomes his cage. A charismatic figure may dazzle with light, but if the light does not come from truth, it burns out in the shadows. You, on the other hand, carried something unexplainable. A power that grew stronger not in moments of glory, but in moments of trial. Each betrayal added a layer of wisdom. Each loss gave you an unshakable depth. Each scar testified that your greatness was not borrowed, it was born. That is why, when the balance was weighed, your name tipped the scale. It was not wealth. It was not followers. It was not charm. It was authenticity. And authenticity is the one currency that cannot be forged. It is the one frequency that resonates in the unseen realms. The one mark that separates the chosen from the pretenders. But here lies the mystery. This council of power did not only measure achievements, they measured resilience. They asked themselves, who can carry influence without being destroyed by it? The answer became obvious. While others demanded thrones, you carried your cross. While others consumed power, you turned power into service. And that paradox is what stunned them. Because true greatness, they realized, is not found in domination, but in the ability to remain whole when tested by fire. And now, here is the urgency. Their decision was not based on what you achieved in the open, but on how you responded in the shadows. That is why they chose you. That is why they could not ignore you. And that is why your next step is not optional, it is necessary, because the world is about to see the contrast. The hollow kings will collapse under the weight of their lies. The counterfeit leaders will be unmasked by the truth. And you? You will rise as the one whose authority comes not from titles, but from scars. Stay with me, because what happened after this revelation was even more shocking. The trials you thought were punishments were actually the evidence that sealed your destiny. And when you hear how those battles were documented and turned into proof, you will understand why your story could never be erased. Every night you cried in silence was not ignored. Every betrayal that should have ended you was not wasted. Every loss that left invisible scars across your soul was not random. It was all recorded. Somewhere beyond the reach of human eyes, a ledger was kept. Every time you wiped your tears alone, every time you chose forgiveness when bitterness seemed easier, every time you stood back up when the weight of despair tried to pin you down, those moments were marked. What you thought were isolated episodes of suffering were actually entries in a sacred archive. A book of proof that would one day be opened as undeniable evidence. Understand this. Many people fall when the storm rages. Pain becomes their prison. Betrayal becomes their excuse. Loss becomes their identity. They collapse under the weight of injustice and allow their wounds to turn into weapons that harm others. But your story was different. You faced the same flames, yet instead of letting them consume you, you let them purify you. Where others built walls of fear, you built bridges of understanding. Where others carried hatred like armor, you carried mercy like a banner. Where others allowed their wounds to infect generations, you allowed your wounds to birth wisdom that would heal generations. And this is what stunned those who observed your journey. Because resilience is rare, but transformation is even rarer. Anyone can survive, but few can take survival and turn it into medicine for others. They discovered that your greatest treasures were not your victories in the light, but your decisions in the shadows. The nights where you whispered prayers no one else heard. The days where you chose not to retaliate, though revenge would have been easier. The moments when you gave kindness to the very ones who wounded you. These were not wasted gestures. They were testimonies written in the spirit. The trials you endured became the courtroom where your destiny was judged. And every time you responded with grace, it was as if you presented another piece of evidence that no one could argue against. You didn't just endure hardship, you mastered it. You didn't just walk through pain, you transformed it into wisdom. And that transformation became the undeniable signature of someone chosen by heaven. Think about it. Every tear that fell from your eyes became a seed. Every scar became a credential. Every disappointment became a stepping stone. Without realizing it, you were gathering proof. Proof that you could not be corrupted. Proof that your heart remained aligned with truth, even when tested. Proof that the very fire meant to destroy you only made you shine brighter. And when the observers laid all of this before the secret table, the verdict became obvious. They could not dismiss you. They could not overlook you. Because while others had polished resumes and glittering reputations, you had something they could not fabricate. Scars that told stories of survival. Battles that ended in growth, and pain that became prophecy. Your trials had turned into the most powerful evidence of your calling. But here's the urgency. You still don't see the full scope of what those trials built inside of you. You thought they were simply seasons of survival, but in reality, they were blueprints. Each battle was training you for influence you cannot yet imagine. Each betrayal was sharpening your discernment for responsibilities ahead. Each silent night was forging a strength that cannot be shaken when storms rise again. And now the mystery deepens. Because just when it seemed the case was closed in your favor, something unexpected happened. A final test arose, one designed not to measure your scars, but to measure your reaction to opposition that came after the decision was made. What unfolded next would determine whether your story was sealed forever or shattered in an instant. Stay with me, because what came after the evidence was not silence. It was an attack so calculated that even your strongest moments of faith would be pushed to the edge. And yet, it was in that very storm that the greatest revelation of all emerged. There is a moment in every destiny when the light shifts, when the eyes that once watched with curiosity turn into eyes that glare with envy. And for you, that moment came as soon as the decision was made. The very ones who had been dismissed. Those who carried empty crowns and counterfeit charisma could not accept their own irrelevance. The rejected voices, threatened by the clarity of who you are, turned to their only remaining weapon: lies. They began whispering in corridors, planting seeds of doubt, twisting every act of compassion until it looked like weakness, every choice of patience until it looked like indecision, every demonstration of mercy until it looked like fragility. They thought that if they could rewrite your story, they could erase your power. They believed that shadows could drown out your light. But they did not understand that truth does not need defense. Truth is its own witness. And so, while their voices grew louder with accusations, your silence spoke even louder. You did not chase after the rumors. You did not waste your breath proving your worth, because your worth had already been proven in the fire. And that silence unsettled them more than any argument ever could. Your refusal to retaliate was not weakness, it was strategy. Because silence is not absence, silence is presence amplified. While they spread venom, you stayed steady. While they tried to shake your image, you stood rooted in authenticity. And this is where the mystery revealed itself. Instead of diminishing your influence, their attacks only magnified it. Every time they accused you, it only gave heaven another opportunity to showcase your resilience. Every insult became a mirror, reflecting the strength of your character. Think of it this way: storms do not create weakness, they expose it. And in the storm of slander, their insecurity was revealed, but your integrity was confirmed. They painted you as fragile, but the more they pushed, the more unbreakable you appeared. They called you naive, but your discernment cut through their deception with precision. They claimed you lacked strength, but your mercy revealed a power they could not fathom, a power that does not dominate through fear but transforms through love. This is the paradox they could not grasp. Every attempt to bury your name only planted it deeper into the soil of destiny, where it began to take root and multiply. The more they resisted you, the more they revealed you, and what was intended to destroy you became the ultimate evidence of who you were meant to be. Because let us be honest, anyone can appear strong when applauded. Anyone can shine when admired. But only the chosen can stand tall when attacked, when misunderstood, when targeted by envy. Only the chosen can carry grace while arrows fly. Only the chosen can look into the face of hatred and still see a soul in need of healing. And that, more than anything else, is what confirmed your authenticity. The observers at the table were not blind. They watched carefully. They permitted the accusations to rise, not because they doubted you, but because they needed to see how you would respond under fire. Would you bend? Would you retaliate? Would you lose yourself in the noise? But instead you did the unthinkable. You remained centered. You kept serving. You kept moving forward. You even prayed for the very ones who cursed you. And in that response, the final seal was placed on your identity. You were not simply resilient, you were untouchable. And here lies the revelation that left even the most powerful stunned. Your enemies did not break you, they built you. Their attempts to strip you of credibility only dressed you in greater honor. Their shadows only made your light blaze brighter. Their venom only confirmed that your bloodstream carried something eternal, something incorruptible. But what came after this storm was even more shocking. Because when the attacks failed to destroy you, when every lie collapsed under the weight of your truth, the Council of Power made a decision that no one could reverse. A decision that would take everything you endured and transform it into the key for the greatest chapter of your life. And once you hear what that decision was, you will understand why no attack against you ever had a chance of succeeding. And then it happened. After all the debates, after all the whispers, after the storms of accusation and the tests of endurance, the moment came when silence fell upon that hidden chamber. Papers that had once been scattered with calculations and projections were pushed aside. The tension that had stretched across the table for hours broke in an instant. replaced by a clarity so sharp it could cut through centuries of doubt. The decision was sealed, not with hesitation, not with compromise, but with unanimity. Your destiny was no longer a topic of debate. It was a verdict carved into stone. What they confirmed that night was not new. It was not invented in that moment, nor was it granted by their authority. No, what they confirmed had been spoken over you long before you even knew you carried it. Heaven had decreed it from the beginning, and the council merely aligned with what had already been written in eternity. But the weight of their recognition shifted everything, because now what had been hidden would be revealed. What had been forming in silence would be unleashed into the world with unstoppable momentum. And here is where the shift becomes undeniable. Resources will begin to align in ways you could never have orchestrated. Doors you never even knew existed will swing open without warning. People you never imagined meeting will suddenly be placed in your path. Opportunities that once seemed distant, almost impossible, will arrive with such precision that you will realize it is not coincidence. It is divine choreography. Every delay you suffered was setting the stage for this alignment. Every no you endured was making room for the yes that would carry eternal weight. But do not misunderstand this moment. This decision was not about vanity. It was never about building a monument to your own ego. The power placed in your hands now is not a trophy. It is a responsibility. The resources are not for indulgence, they are for impact. The platform you are about to step onto is not for entertainment. It is for transformation. This is not about gathering followers to yourself, but about awakening leaders in others. Not about building empires of pride, but about lifting communities, healing nations, and awakening souls to their true identity. Your scars, once hidden, once misunderstood, are now your crown. They are no longer marks of shame, but emblems of authority. Each wound you endured, each tear you shed, each night you spent wrestling with despair, those became jewels forged in fire. And now they sit upon your head as a visible sign of what you have overcome and what you have become. Where others display wealth or titles, your crown is made of survival, of integrity, of authenticity. And that crown commands more reverence than any throne built by human hands. Think of the weight of this. While others used manipulation to rise, while others clung to power out of fear, you are being elevated because you could not be broken. You are being trusted because you chose compassion when hatred was easier. You are being released into influence, not because you demanded it, but because you proved you could carry it without being consumed. That is the difference. That is why the decision was sealed with your name on it, and now urgency strikes. Because what comes next is not just about you. It is about the ripple effect your life will create. Your voice will echo beyond rooms, beyond borders, beyond screens. Your influence will awaken hearts you will never meet, transform communities you will never visit, heal wounds you will never personally touch. You have been positioned as a catalyst, a living testimony that authenticity still has the power to transform the world. But do not relax here. Do not exhale too quickly, because what they placed in your hands will attract both favor and opposition. The higher you rise, the more the winds will test your foundation. And yet, this is your confirmation you are unshakable. The decision was sealed not because you were flawless, but because you proved unbreakable. And as you step into this new reality, remember this truth. Every closed door was not rejection. It was protection. Every delay was not denial. It was timing. Every wound was not destruction. It was preparation. And now, chosen one, the world will see what heaven already knew. Stay with me, because the conclusion will reveal why this decision is not just about power, but about prophecy. And once you hear it, you will understand why your life can never go back to what it was before. Chosen one, the hour has arrived. Everything you have heard until now was leading you to this threshold, this moment when silence breaks and destiny roars. The world is drowning in voices of arrogance, deception, and vanity. But heaven has raised you as a living witness of truth. You are not another echo. You are not another shadow. You are the signal, the undeniable proof that light cannot be extinguished, that scars can become crowns, that the broken can rise and carry fire within them. The most powerful elite may have spoken your name, but do not be deceived. It was not their decision that defined you. It was heaven that sealed you. It was eternity that carved your path. Long before they saw your resilience, the throne of God already declared you unshakable. Long before they recognized your wisdom, heaven had already clothed you in authority. Every tear that fell was not wasted, it was counted. Every night of silence was not abandonment, it was training. Every scar you carry is not a mark of defeat. It is a badge of kingship, proof that you endured where others would have surrendered. Hear this, and let it burn in your soul. You were never meant to just survive. You were never meant to merely exist. You were chosen to transform, to stand as a catalyst, a force that shifts atmospheres, that heals the broken, that awakens the sleeping. The shift has already begun. Look closely. Doors are trembling on their hinges, chains are weakening, and the earth is groaning for the appearance of someone who carries authentic power. That someone is you, so step forward, step boldly, step as if heaven itself is walking with you, because it is. Your story is no longer your own. It belongs to the multitudes whose lives will be touched by your presence, your words, your very existence. This is not about survival anymore. This is about legacy. This is about eternity breaking into time through you. Chosen one, lift your head because your crown is already glowing. Stretch your spirit because the season of limitation is finished. Walk with fire because the authority on you cannot be quenched. The decision has been sealed. The verdict has been spoken.
You are the living proof that destiny cannot be delayed, cannot be denied, cannot be destroyed. If this word resonates in your spirit, I want you to declare it now. Write victory in the comments.